As the landscape of entertainment has become desaturated with superhero media, we are presented with one brooding anti-hero after the other, all of which are plagued with a tragic origin. What our superhero media needs is hope. Hope that will be provided by a big blue bastion of benevolence. Yes, citizens, there is a new tick in town, and he is mighty! Honesty is the best policy, and this is an honest review. Greetings fanboys and fangirls, I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. Usually I like to start these videos with a little background and insight on the subject matter that I'm covering, but I'm not gonna do that today. As I already did a Tick video 2 weeks ago, in which I spoke about the Tick's comic book origins in explicit detail, as well as thoroughly reviewing the Tick animated series. So if you want to know more about the background of the Tick, I highly recommend you check out that video, available right now on my YouTube channel, as well as channelawesome.com. And while we're on the subject of my previous Tick video, I have to correct something that I said completely wrong in that video. During my honest review of the Tick animated series, I said that I was under the impression that the reason Mickey Dolenz left the show during season 2 was because he was difficult to work with. However, shortly after I released this video, I received an email from Townsend Coleman telling me otherwise. Yes, Townsend Coleman, the original voice of the Tick, saw my video and emailed me. If that sounds awesome, that's because it is. Townsend was very kind to explain that not only was Mickey Dolenz a delight to work with, but the reason he left the show was because he had a reunion tour with the Monkees and he wouldn't be back on time to record the first half of season 2. So they decided to replace him with Rob Paulsen instead. Okay, so 2 things. Number 1, my most sincere apologies to Mickey Dolenz. I did not mean to lead anybody astray about the integrity of his character, and also, the way Townsend Coleman just stepped in to defend him, that was one of the most noble and heroic things I have ever seen anybody do, which makes me believe all the more that he was the perfect choice to play the Tick. Alright, now that that's clear, it's been 16 years since we've seen any Tick media, so what sparked the interest to bring the big blue behemoth back? Well, it all started in 2014, when producer Barry Josephson noticed that the state of the entertainment business started to resemble the world of the Tick. A world that is overly populated with superheroes, but only a handful are truly good at what they do. The Tick was always a relentless parody of superhero comics, and now that superhero comics had become mainstream, and the genre had now become a common part of our everyday vernacular, the Tick's humor had become more relevant than ever, so the time was ripe for the astonishing arachnid to make his return. Unfortunately, one key individual was not convinced, and that was none other than the Tick's creator himself, Ben Edlund. For those of you who don't know, Edlund had moved far in his career since the days when he used to produce comics and cartoons. In the intervening years, he has lent his brilliant writing skills to such pop culture staples as Angel, Firefly, Gotham, and Supernatural. So Edlund felt like he had moved on from his days of just being the happy-go-lucky creator of the Tick. Josephson, however, convinced him otherwise by making 2 very intelligent points. Number 1, superhero shows and movies have become a lot darker and more grim in the past few years. So bringing back a character like the Tick would be like a breath of fresh air in this overly gritty landscape. And number 2, with the rise of streaming media, now Edlund had a platform to produce the type of Tick series that he always wanted to make. One that wouldn't be hindered by any limitations or restrictions placed on him by a network or a studio. So there was no way that Edlund could say no to that. It was time for the Tick to come back. And so the duo became a trio, as they were joined by Buffy and Angel producer David Fury. Now that's a producer that can cut the mustard.
They got the mustard.
Only Buffy fans will get that reference, and I don't care. The 3 pitched the show to the relatively new Amazon Prime streaming service, and Amazon ordered the pilot. So on August 18th, 2016, the pilot episode of The Tick premiered on Amazon Prime for free, along with 2 other pilots, I Love Dick and Jean-Claude Van Johnson. And Prime held a bit of a contest, they would decide which show to pick up based on viewer response. And there was no contest. The Tick won by a landslide. The viewer response was so strong that Amazon Prime had no choice but to pick up the series. And so on August 25th, 2017, the next 5 episodes of The Tick Season 1 premiered. That's right, they are yet to premiere the last 4 episodes of the season. Apparently, they are saving them for next year. As per usual, there will be spoilers ahead, so if you haven't seen the superb streaming series, you might want to stop the video here. You've been warned. Also, equally as important, while The Tick might be a goofy, fun-loving superhero, this is not a kids show. The dialogue is profane.
The file your file under, where the f*** is that f***ing file?
And the gore is hardcore.
It was like he was looking for some place to keep his knife. No place was good enough.
So show this to your kids at your own discretion. Alright, let's talk about the first 6 episodes, starting with... The plot. A vicious attack by the supervillain known as the Terror eliminates all the superheroes that used to protect the city known as the City. I swear to God, that is its only name. But the Terror's attack didn't just deprive the city of its protectors, it also took the life of the father of a young boy named Arthur, who grows up obsessed with the Terror and desperately wants to prove that the villain is still alive, and that he is secretly running all the organized crime in the city. However, Arthur's secret investigation gets shifted into 3rd gear by the interference of a mysterious new superhero named the Tick, who sees untapped potential in Arthur and is fully convinced that Arthur is not meant to expose the Terror but to stop him as his partner, sidekick, and superhero.
Here we are. I told you that outfit was a winner. 2 bullets, point blank, and high voltage, plus a 3-story drop, and look at you. You're as alive as a daisy.
Cast and characters. One quick warning before we delve into this show's amazing cast. If you're like me and you were hoping to see appearances by fan favorites like the Fledermaus, American Maid, and Sewer Urchin, I'm afraid you'll be sorely disappointed, as those were characters that were created for the animated series, which was produced by Sunbow Entertainment, and the TV rights were sold to Fox Kids, who then lost the rights to Disney. Suffice it to say, the rights to those characters have been trapped in legal limbo since the late 90s, but don't lose hope just yet.
The characters from the cartoon are still in a kind of a rights kind of difficult space because they're still sort of owned by a separate entity, but if we ever sort that out, then we definitely want to get back to our roots.
One way or another, this show is still packed with lots and lots of great characters. So let's start talking about them with... the villains. While the city might have lost her protectors, the Flag 5, it sure as hell didn't run out of villains. In the absence of the Terror, the Pyramid Gang took over all the organized crime in the city, led by the image-obsessed Ramses IV, played by Michael Severus. While his illegal dealings might hold the city in a death grip, it is painfully obvious that the only reason he has stayed in power is because he is yet to have somebody formidable challenge him. And I have a feeling that that formidable foe is just around the corner.
Not so fast, you mascara madman. All right.
Ramses' ineptitude is made more apparent when compared to his main enforcer, Miss Lint, played by Yara Martinez, a lethal lady lackey armed with electric powers that come with a major drawback, as all Lint is attracted to her. What is it about Lint that Ben Edlund finds so funny?
We're going to have to use untested new technology to achieve the speed of Lint.
The speed of... Excuse me?
Lint, Tick, the fastest thing in the universe. Right after you do your laundry, what's the first thing you find in your pockets?
Crayons, change, lip balm?
Lint! And how does it get there?
I don't know. It's that fast!
While Miss Lint may be a very powerful supervillain, she is stuck in a bit of a rut, as the death of her former mentor, the Terror, left her in a state of perpetual mourning, from which she cannot recover, to the point that she will let a schmuck like Ramses run all over her. My favorite example of Lint's perpetual malaise is how she has become willing to share her condo with an annoying roommate.
It was on my side of the condo.
Do you want me to bust out our agreement? Page 12, paragraph 9. Ex-wife shall not molest or electromolest ex-husband's property or person.
Yeah, it is not easy being a supervillain with a roommate.
And how many times do I have to say it? Don't touch my stuff. This is my side of the living room, and that is your side of the living room. And must you drink straight out of the milk carton? It's disgusting.
But the real big bad of Tick Season 1 is of course the Terror, played by the great Jackie Earle Haley. The Terror was the absolute best choice to be the main villain in the Tick's inaugural season, as he is the exact opposite of the Tick. While the Tick is an honest, loving, uncorruptible force for good, the Terror is a vicious, demented, merciless evildoer. Jackie does a magnificent job of playing both the undeniably frightening and intimidating side of the Terror, as well as the dark comedy that comes from the fact that the Terror doesn't seem to be fazed by any of the terrible things that he does.
Oh my God.
Is that Derek?
He's my ex-husband. You killed him.
Did I? No, that's just the platypus venom. He'll seizure it off in about an hour.
Heroes. Now before I talk about the delightful do-gooders of this show, here's an interesting fact. Did you know that both of the previous actors who played the Tick are involved with this show? Patrick Warburton, who played the Tick in the 2001 live-action series, is one of the show's producers. And you know it's only a matter of time before he makes a cameo appearance. And Townsend Coleman, who voiced the Tick in the animated series, voiced Onward, aka Midnight, the Holy Hound, faithful pet of Christian Soldier, former member of the Flag 5. Which leads me to a theory. I think Midnight sold out the Flag 5 to the Terror, and gave the Terror the means to blind the Five with weaponized syphilis, and then kill them. All except for Sharpshooter, or Straight Shooter. But more on that later. Now, I might be wrong about this, but if I'm right, I get the bragging rights, and bragging rights are the best kind of rights. In the Flag 5's absence, Superior, played by Brendan Hines, takes over as the world's premier superhero. At this point, we know very little about Superior, outside of the fact that he is a very overt parody of Superman, and how he is conveniently unaware of the Terror still being alive, even though he is the one who allegedly killed the Terror. Which leads me to believe that the Terror and Superior are actually in league with one another, but that's just another crazy fan theory, and I promise it will not go any further. But while we're on the subject of crazy fan theories, let's talk about Overkill, played by Scott Spicer. Obviously part of Ben Edlund's crusade to demonstrate how lame anti-heroes are.
Guns and superheroes don't mix. Seek professional help.
Murder is... it's just not cool.
Overkill has little interest on fighting crime, and is completely consumed by his vendetta against the Terror. And why does Overkill want revenge on the Terror? Because he is actually Sharpshooter from the Flag 5. And that's not a fan theory, it's just painfully obvious. Sharpshooter is the only one of the Flag 5 that the Terror didn't kill. He blinded him, and then he had his minions crush his hands. And hey, look! Overkill has both prosthetic eyes and cybernetically enhanced hands. And hates Midnight.
I hate that fucking dog.
Which fits in with my theory that it was the Holy Hound that betrayed the Flag 5. So why did the Terror let him live? He probably did it at the behest of Miss Lind, who obviously has a thing for him.
Overkill. Yeah. I heard. He say anything to you about me?
What?
And if I'm wrong, and I accept it. But I'm probably right.
Just got back from Miss Lind.
Lind? She say anything to you about me?
No, not really.
One thing that I love about this show is that not all the heroes are super, and the one that illustrates this the best is Arthur's sister, Dot, played by Valerie Curry. Now in the animated series, Dot was often presented as an annoying nag that would only get in the way of the Tick and Arthur.
Well, don't expect me to do the dishes.
Thankfully, that was not the case in this show, as Dot is a badass paramedic roller girl who is just as capable as the Tick and Arthur. In fact, I think Valerie Curry defined this character best herself. She said that Dot has all the capabilities of being a superhero, but just isn't one. So much so that I was a little annoyed when she enthusiastically offered to help Arthur with the case after years of the poor guy being treated like he was crazy, and he turns her down. Well, I hope she ignores him and helps anyway, because Dot is awesome.
Hey, you're the girl from the...
Alright, so once again, I will be talking about the Tick and Arthur simultaneously. If you don't know why, I would like to once again refer you to my other Tick video. So obviously, one of the key factors that could make or break this show was the portrayal of the Tick and Arthur's relationship, as it is the centerpiece of this franchise, and I'm happy to report that Griffin Newman and Peter Serafinowicz nailed it perfectly. Essentially, the Tick is the story of a friendship that can endure anything. Supervillains, monsters, finances.
This morning I went out and picked up some more equipment.
You what?
I would have gotten more, but they cut up your credit cards.
And this show beautifully tells the story of how this friendship began. I find it perfectly appropriate that most of the promotional material frames the Tick and Arthur within a hole in a broken wall, as they are both broken people. Arthur suffered a horrific tragedy as a child that took all of his heroes away in one terrible moment. As a kid, he wanted nothing more than to be a superhero like the Flag Five. But in that horrifying moment, his confidence was broken, and he grew up believing that he will always be nothing more than a bystander, a victim, or as Dot so eloquently puts it, collateral damage. This all starts to change once he meets the Tick, who might be a nigh invulnerable powerhouse, but due to some memory problems and a severe case of ADD,
I can't remember anything before the last few days.
Is in desperate need of some guidance, which he knows Arthur can provide. Their connection is very similar to that of Dory and Marlin from Finding Nemo. Dory's memory gets better the more time she spends with Marlin, someone who makes her feel comfortable and at home, which is exactly what Arthur does for the Tick.
I get a little confused when you're not around.
And while Arthur looks in the mirror and only sees a meek loser, Tick looks at him and sees the great hero that he can be. And that, fanboys and fangirls, is the Tick's greatest superpower in this show. Kindness. The Tick is the nicest, least judgmental superhero I have ever seen. Unless you break the law.
Does everything have to be a crime with you?
And while the rest of the world rolled their collective eyes at Arthur and just saw him as a traumatized victim, the Tick saw in him everything that he could be. And in the end, that's all you truly need. One person to believe in you.
You just had your first supervillain battle, and you look great!
This first season mostly focused on Arthur, because he is a more multi-layered character, as opposed to the Tick, who might be hilarious and fun, but ultimately is very one-dimensional. Not to mention that his past and true identity are a complete mystery. For this reason, the creators of this show have heavily implied that if the show progresses beyond the first season, that we will start to delve into the Tick's past, and actually expand upon his origin.
You help me with Overkill, and I'll try to help you figure out your past.
You will?
Yeah.
Well, thank you, friend.
As a lifelong Tick fan, I have to admit that this makes me very nervous, as I love the idea of the Tick being a superhero and nothing else. But if Ben Edlund feels like we are ready to know the Tick's true origin, then I trust him. Series progression. Now, before we go any further, I have to give major praise to the crew of this show because it looks beautiful. The shot design, the cinematography, the effects, the production design, and of course, the costumes, which were designed by the real-life Edna Mode, Colleen Atwood, who has designed the costumes for most of the DCW heroes, as well as the Tick and Arthur. And I have to say, our two bug-themed vigilantes have never looked better. They even improved the Tick's costumes between the pilot and the rest of the series.
Did you, look kind of, different.
Thanks.
And I highly approve of the changes. The costume looks more like an insect's exoskeleton, which is very fitting to the Tick's aesthetic.
Are you wearing some outfit, or is it just you?
Now, unlike the previous Tick shows, which were episodic, and you could start watching them with any episode, this new series follows more in the grand tradition of its fellow streaming shows, and is very much serialized, telling one long story across 10 episodes. So it is imperative that you watch the show in order. Now, while this might be a new format, Edlund was still thoughtful enough to pay tribute to all the previous Tick incarnations as often as possible.
I think I'm going crazy.
You're not going crazy, Arthur. You're going sane in a crazy world.
You're not going crazy, Arthur. You're going sane in a crazy world.
The most noteworthy of these tributes takes place when the Tick visits Arthur's apartment for the first time, where he's looking around for the trigger to Arthur's superhero headquarters. This, of course, is a reference to Spider-Man and his amazing friends, where 3 college students with no jobs could afford such things. But more importantly, the same scene transpired before in the Tick's comic, the cartoon, and the previous live-action show.
Your secret headquarters trigger the switch that pops up all your secret crime-busting equipment. Is this it? Huh?
What does your sofa turn into? Your sonar radar perimeter defense unit?
No! It turns into a bed.
My mom bought that for... Look, there is no trigger.
Another tribute moment that caught me by surprise is when the Tick falls off a building and catches a flagpole on the way down. This also happened in the comics as well as in the first episode of the cartoon.
I'll bounce off that flagpole and flip to safety. Aha!
Oh, but the references didn't stop there, as Edlin also referenced the famous fan theory that the Tick is just Arthur's alternate personality, and only a figment of his imagination. Yeah, he debunked that one very quickly.
Tick, she can't see you, okay?
I can see him. Yeah. What are you?
I am the Tick.
As far as the storytelling style, not only does it follow Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, but the Tick openly and boldly states aloud that that is the format in which Arthur's story is being told.
And you're already at stage 3. The hero rejects the call. Overkill wants to make a murder salad out of your hero's journey.
Oh, come on.
Now that is the kind of meta reference that would make Deadpool jealous. When people ask me to describe this show to them, I tell them that it's like a Marvel Netflix show with the Tick inserted into it. Hell, the same guy from Daredevil is in it. You remember him. There he is. The Tick is the exact same character he has been in all previous incarnations, but now he resides in a darker, nastier, more violent world that, in my opinion, desperately needs him. And this, my friends, is the key factor that makes this particular incarnation of the Tick work. Everything feels 100% legit to a superhero adaptation, so the humor becomes sympathetic, as it stems from the absurdity of these superhero situations and this big blue buffoon being shoehorned into settings and scenarios where he obviously doesn't fit in.
Don't touch that.
Already did.
Semi-final verdict. As I explained before, Amazon only posted the first 6 episodes, so I cannot give you a definitive critique on the season until I see the final 4. But the one thing that I can speak definitively about is Peter Serafinowicz as the Tick. It wasn't just the fact that he nailed the character, he also brought this wonderful, beautiful honesty to the role that made him an absolute joy to watch. Whenever he appears on screen, I can't help but get into a good mood. Now, while I thankfully never suffered a tragedy as dire as the one endured by Arthur, I have watched a lot of my favorite superheroes be mistreated and misrepresented by misguided studios and networks. And as a fan, all I ever want for the characters that I love is for them to be treated well. And here I see this magnificent actor giving us all of his efforts to treat this character well. In that scene where he hugs Arthur after hearing his backstory, I felt like he was hugging all of us. Every single fan who has ever seen their heroes crushed by someone who didn't understand the franchise. In just 6 episodes, the Tick instilled more hope in me than the character that is always ranting about how he stands for hope. So what I'm trying to say is that in our current superhero landscape, the Tick deserves to wear this a hell of a lot more than that guy. And now I'm gonna say something that I never thought I would say. Peter Serafinowicz is my favorite Tick. Now, Townsend Coleman will always be the first and the best. Spoon! But Peter brought something to the character that he didn't quite have before, and that is heart.
Yeah, that does feel pretty good.
Does it?
Well, don't... But... Thank you, Tick.
You're welcome.
So I guess as fans, all we can do is sit around, wait, and hope against hope that those last 4 episodes are good. Thank you for watching. I'm Erod, I'm the Blockbuster Buster, and to be continued.